What's up guys, Alec here from East Coast Consoles, and today we are going to take a look at modding the Sega Saturn. So with me I have 3 of my 7 Sega Saturns, and each one of them have a different type of mod. We are going to take a look at the soft mod using the Pseudo Saturn, the hard mod of the Saturn that has a Phantom Universal chip installed, not done by me because you all know how bad my soldering skills are, and the Saturn Rhea, which is an SD card replacement for your optical drive. We're going to take a look at the pros and cons of each and just give you some information if you're looking to mod your Sega Saturn, what you can do on a budget. Alright guys, up first we have the Pseudo Saturn cart, which is a soft mod for the Sega Saturn. Now if you don't know what a soft mod is, essentially it is a device that you plug into a system that doesn't require any modification of the original hardware, and it allows you to bypass any type of region lock or copy protection. So essentially what you do is you take an ISO that was fan made from the Pseudo Saturn website, you burn it to a CD, and either with a modded Sega Saturn or the disc swapping method, you load that CD, and then you will actually be able to write the contents from the CD to an action replay. Now, you actually lose the action replay's ability to do action replay stuff, such as cheats, but if you are going for playing backups of games, I don't think you really care about that. Now, in order for this to work, all you do is have the Pseudo Saturn cart, you put it in your Sega Saturn, load it up, and once you get to the Pseudo Saturn screen, you simply take your burnt game, put it inside, and close the lid. Then in seconds, your game will be playing. Up next, we have the hard modded Sega Saturn, which I bought from a forum a long time ago, which has this device soldered onto the motherboard itself. Now what this device does is when the CD goes to play, the actual motherboard on the Sega Saturn has a part that tells what region it is and what causes region locks, and also a copy protection part which will read the game disc and tell whether it's legit or not. Those signals then get sent to this card, which then says that everything's all honky-dory and your game will then play. All you have to do for this specific type of mod is put your disc in, can't find the hole, and then hit play. Now, you also can bypass region with this without the need of an action replay, making it pretty good for somebody who plays Japanese games. Now, the last modification we have is called the Saturn Rhea, which is an SD card replacement for the actual optical drive. You essentially take the firmware that is given to you by the guy who made it, and you write it to this SD card, and then you use his software to put all of your games onto that SD card, in which you just plug in the system, hit go, and you will get a graphical interface of all of your games. You find the one that you want, hit go, and you're freaking going. You're doing it. You're just doing it. Alright, so up first we have the Pseudo Saturn cart. Now what's great about this is you can actually buy the cart pre-made for about $50, and if you want to do the endeavor yourself with the disc swap method, you just have to buy an action replay, which runs you about $35, and you can do it yourself. Also, the actual cart itself is compatible with about 95% of games. You can actually go online for a compatibility list, of which most games that don't run correctly, you can actually patch it with a Pseudo Saturn patcher to make it run flawlessly. The actual cons of the device is that the actual pins on the action replay have to be touching a lot more for the Pseudo Saturn to work, so sometimes you have to apply pressure inward on the actual cart for it to play the bootlegged game. Or not bootleg, because we don't bootleg games, but the backup of our original game, not illegally downloaded. You also lose the ability to do cheats with the action replay, since the action replay's firmware gets overwritten with the Pseudo Saturn firmware. But if you are trying to play backup games, this really shouldn't be that much of an issue for you. Up next, we have the hard modded Sega Saturn with a mod chip. It is 100% compatible, which is great because it doesn't use a separate firmware to load games. All it does is bypass the region lock and the copy protection. So every single game will work, and it pretty much works flawlessly. There's no hiccups. You just put the game in and it runs and does all the functionality of a non-modded Saturn. A modded Saturn will run you about $175 on eBay. You can get them around $130 if you're on some type of forum like Assembler Games. The mod chip itself is extremely cheap, so if you can solder, you can get the mod chip for about 20 bucks. And I think it's only 4 or 5 wires that need to be soldered in, so if you know how to solder, this is definitely a viable option for you. The one thing to keep in mind about both the hard mod and the soft mod options is that eventually the CD-ROM unit will die. Up next we have the Saturn Rhea, which is the SD card replacement. It's 100% compatible and is a really well-made device. The problem is that in order to get this device, you have to be one of the very special few to order it when it goes on sale, and it only goes on sale once every 3 months and sells out in about 5 to 10 minutes. The device itself is $130, but if you miss it and want to buy it on eBay, you're looking at $400 to $500 just for it. Although the Rhea is 100% compatible, it does have its flaws, and the main one being the menu. The actual person who made it doesn't give you a menu option on the device. You have to use a third-party tool. And the third-party tool does work good, but writes each game into an individual folder. So you can't have letter A and then have a subfolder with all the games of letter A. You have to have 01 game, 02 game. So if you are having every single game like I do on this 512 gig SD card, you have 1,200 folders that you have to go through every time when you want to play a specific game. If you download complete ROM sets such as TrueRip or Redump, it might not be in a compatible format. So I used my whole Redump collection of Sega Saturn, which come in bin and Q files, and those are not actually supported by the Rhea device. So in order to get around this, I had to mount each individual game and then burn it to CDI so that I could get them seen by the device, which was a very long and very tiring process. Now, what makes this device so appealing to many people is that there's no moving pieces on the actual device, so theoretically, the device should last you forever, or at least your lifetime. My personal opinion is that if you want to try downloading games and playing them, or have a specific game that you want to play, that the Pseudo Saturn is perfect. It's relatively cheap and doesn't require some long-term commitment, such as waiting 3 months for the device to go on sale. If you had to choose between the mod or the SD card, I would definitely go with the SD card mod, since it's relatively the same price, and the fact that CD-ROM units are 20 years old and will eventually die makes the fact that the SD card will live on forever that much greater. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment, like, subscribe, check us out on Instagram, hit us up in RL, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, if you want me to make you a Pseudo Saturn cart, comment below.